Mr. Mark Beauchamp, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you.
Hi.
Talk to me about the ecosystem of books prior to the internet.
Okay. Well, first there weren't books, and then at a certain point, someone got around to inventing them, right?
Right.
And the ecosystem was interesting because they're extremely valuable, difficult to find. They were made out of sheep leather in some cases. And then someone figured out the whole paper thing, the Chinese. And then by the time we get to basically the Reformation, that's when paper really kicks in. Gutenberg does the press. Mm-hmm. Suddenly books begin to be accessible to more and more people. By the time we get to basically now, modern day, present age, we just have tons and tons and tons of books. People are consuming books. I kind of went very high level there.
Yeah.
What if I back up a step?
Yeah. Zoom in.
Zoom in.
Let's look at the U.S.
How about
prior to like 1960?
Okay. U.S. prior to 1960. It's interesting because I would say this is gonna sound funny, but I would say that we're probably at about the same. I mean, people read, mm-hmm. right? But we had a smaller population. Obviously, we consume more books as a nation now than we ever did.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, like the popular medium of radio and television was prevalent enough that I wouldn't say like, oh, in the 1960s, it was a reading culture. Because we did read newspapers, listened to the radio, watched television, read books.
Right.
Okay. Not so slowly. Before radio and television came along, I'm sure people read books. Obviously, that's what you got you read newspapers for your news.
Right.
You read books for practically everything else. You bought books for practically everything else. But then what happens is we have this inflection and a tipping point where the big, it's funny because it was kind of like books came along and probably disrupted something, mm-hmm. right? And then radio comes along and probably disrupts something.
Right.
The internet is the big disruptor that we all know about. We all talk about the internet being disruptive. But it really, books and the ecosystem of books, and I think this is probably where you're going because we talked about this before, is the idea of where you got your books from. Right. So you'd go to your bookshop, you'd go to a store, they'd have books, you buy your books from there. When the internet comes along, books were extremely interesting to Jeff Bezos because they had the largest catalog of any kind of product or type that there was in the world.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
So in other words, you could get a catalog from the Sears company. They have a big catalog with a lot of products in it, but it's nothing compared to the catalog of books.
Right.
Every book, by the time we get to the 1960s, they're starting to kind of codify that each book basically has a social security number or an identification number of some kind. I can't remember exactly when the International Book Number or the ISBN came into existence, but it was around this point where people were like, how are we going to tell the difference between this Norton Critical edition of Gulliver's Travels and this Doubleday edition with illustrations of Gulliver's
yeah.
Travels? And so having these identifiers, the book industry basically was a very mature, well cataloged industry with the most products as definably cataloged as you possibly could. And then on top of that, they had extremely well organized systems of distribution, because you had lots and lots of bookstores mm-hmm. that people would go to and say, do you have a copy of whatever it was?
Right.
And if you were any kind of good bookstore, you'd have kind of like, you'd know your local market, you'd know what everybody in the United States, the book they're currently talking about, whatever it is, you'd have it all in place in your bookstore. And there were really big distributors, Barnes & Nobles and Ingram particularly, who were the big warehouses that literally had almost everything that was in print on their shelves waiting for an order from a bookstore. And a bookstore could take someone's order, call up Ingram and say, ship it to me now. And everybody gets a small piece of the puzzle. But the consumer is here They'd go to the bookstore for book recommendations, or they'd read the New York Times book review for a book recommendation. Go to the bookstore talks to Ingram or Barnes and Nobles. It gets shipped back to them.
Right.
Along comes the internet. And
Saves a lot of time.
it saves a lot of time. It also hates a middleman. But what Jeff Bezos saw was that books were the smartest place to begin the everything store, because you had millions upon millions of titles that were out there that a bookstore couldn't possibly hold. And that's why the internet was so great.
Right.
Your catalog's massive. And all Jeff did was just park his building right next to Ingram's warehouse and then trundle his orders back and forth across. So he'd get an order, and then he'd place an order with Ingram, go walk across the street, grab it, and put it back in his warehouse and ship it to his customer.
Yeah.
So the internet comes along. The ecosystem for books then goes from, I want a book, I go to my bookstore, I order a book, I get it back, I read it. Now that I'm done with it, I'll keep it, or I'll donate it, or I'll take it to my used bookstore. The used bookstore will have other used books that I might want. I can trade it in for credit, or I can just get money for my book. Like it's like a bottle return. Here's a 5-cent deposit on your book.
Yeah.
So you go to the used bookstore now. So there's like a new bookstore in town and a used bookstore in town. And this whole ecosystem of, I want a book, I read about the book, I buy the book, I read the book, I take a book, they sell the book.
Right.
Someone else buys it. It's like Mr. Willoughby's Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Where the tree keeps getting smaller, but it keeps like sticking around in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
It's like a book. It keeps losing more and more of its pages. Finally,
Right.
I just have a cover. So that changes once the internet comes along. The physical bookstore is the first one to get hit by what will become the most massive business in the world, right? It's not like the kite store or the bike store gets hit by Jeff Bezos first. It's the bookstore.
Right.
So the first like industry to feel was books.
Right.
Okay. So now let's skip forward a couple of skip. New bookstore folds. Boom.
Right.
New bookstores folded first, usually because they were renting their space, not because they owned it. Right. And if you're renting the land you're on, or you just were like, hey, I can cash in my real estate value. So at the same time that the internet's killing your book business, real estate and property values are just skyrocketing.
Yeah.
So you see this exit of people who've, for a generation have held on to bookstores, and they're like, I've got all kinds of cyclical pressures from outside, and my building's not worth $1 million. I can retire.
Right.
And read my books in peace instead of having customers walk in and interrupt me.
Right. Yeah.
So bookstores fold. Now you're like, well, if there's not a bookstore, I'll just go online. It reinforces. Now you've bought a book online, but both the new bookstore and the used bookstore may or may not be in your town anymore. And you may or may not be interested in like hauling a box of books down to your local used bookstore.
Right.
You're just like, well, I've got a couple books that I'm done reading. I'll put it in with the sweaters that I'm done wearing and take it to the thrift store. So instead of staying inside the book circle, you're now taking
used goods circle
into the used goods circle, which is much bigger. And there's those waiting arms of those thrift stores have two options. Either A, they can put it on their shelf in the thrift store, but only, I'd say 5 to 10% of books that go into a thrift store even actually make it out onto the floor. The rest of them go into big boxes called Gaylords and get put into a truck and get shipped off to a distribution center. And either they then do their own online bookstore, or they sell them to much bigger online-only operations that sell books directly to consumers through their own website or through Amazon or ABE or Libris.
Right.
So now it has only reinforced the cycle. Now there's no used bookstore to even take a used book to.
Yeah.
So I might as well donate it. Or you can donate to the library. The library has a book sale. So that happens. But by and large, you just see this attrition. Little by little, the old system of how a book stayed in a town or in a city changes because the internet has changed where you bought it initially,
right?
Where you'd get rid of it initially, and then but every time that happens, every time there's attrition on those fronts, something grows and expands into its place. So Amazon grows and expands. The thrift store or the people buying from thrift stores, they grow and expand. They have inventory. Your local used bookstore doesn't. Blah blah blah.
Right, and it's almost like when you buy a book off of Amazon, you are making life easier for yourself
100 million
than
percent.
if you were to go buy a book from your local bookstore.
Yes.
And so the incentive structure is to just continually have more and more online books.
Correct. Unless the whole point of buying the book wasn't that you wanted it to be easy. You wanted to have, like, maybe buying a book is a source of fun,
Right.
or the hunt for a book or a hunt for something new is a pleasure.
Right.
So it's like going for a hike. But
Right,
it's like,
yeah.
you're not, but it's, if the book is not a utility, like I need the book for the class, or I need the book because my friend said I have to read, whatever it is.
Gulliver's Travels.
Or Good to Great, or
Right.
yeah, Gulliver's Travels. We'll bring up Gulliver's Travels more. I think we'll just stick with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but that's not necessarily bad. I mean, most people
No.
are in the like, I need a book for utility.
Right.
And then once I'm done with the book, like if it was really good, I'll keep it.
Yep.
If it was not really good,
Yeah. I'll give it to a thrift store.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I'll give it to a friend.
Yeah.
I'll give it to like it's
Or my enemy.
or someone I do. Yeah.
This is a great
This
book.
is great. You'll love it.
It's 10,000 pages. It's
Yes.
amazing. You're going to
Yeah.
love this.
Yeah. So it's not like they were doing this, trying to destroy bookstores.
No.
And I mean, is it bad that this happened? Like, is it?
No.
Would you see this as a backward progression?
No. Because, well, basically, so once people figured out how to convey information, my favorite internet book selling story is before the internet.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, book selling on the internet was invented by Powell's in Portland.
Oh, okay.
So Powell's, and I'm forgetting his name. Shoot.
Probably Greg
Mr.
Powell or something. Yeah.
Right. So he was an innovator across multiple levels. Jeff Bezos actually went and talked to him when he was starting Amazon, because he already had a website.
Right.
He already had books. Okay. He was the first bookseller. He was smart. He bought basically a city block of buildings one at a time and kept filling them up with books. So he owned his real estate.
Yep.
2, he had a really cool kind of like technical book department. So like think engineering and architecture. And what you would do before the internet, if you were a bookseller and you had any kind of like real catalog of cool books, you would actually make a physical catalog and type out which books you had and their
Right.
price. And then people were like, yeah, I'd love for you to send your catalog to me. And if you got it, I'll call you
Right.
and buy the book on your catalog.
Well, like they did with other products.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except to be one, they might have a stack of new, whatever books, but sometimes it's a one-off, right?
Right.
So they get this letter in the mail from England because one of their guys had just posted. So they had been typing out their list on a computer to print it out,
Mhm.
but he'd also posted it onto their not website, but like a table that could be read on their BBS, like the bulletin board systems were it was basically like
Yeah.
DOS. The internet was just like
Right.
like command types.
Yeah.
So he's looking at the catalog on the internet
Bulletin board.
bulletin board of Powell's and is like, I want that book. How do we do this? So they had to like go, hey guys, we've got someone in England who wants to buy a book off of this catalog, right? It's like
Right.
and I mean that had to be the heads up because it didn't cost anything to print the catalog.
No.
It's just there on a bulletin board.
Right.
How far could this go? Do you think we could get 5 or 10 people a month to buy a book from us on the bulletin board?
Wouldn't that
You
be
never
so
know.
cool?
It'd be so
Yeah.
interesting. So, so that was probably technically the first book ever sold on the internet.
Yeah.
Before the internet even started. Sorry, I don't know where I was going with that, but the idea is like those disruptions and changes come, and either you're adapting to them and you're creating a system around it. You're adapting to it. Powell's has a really good website,
Mhm.
and they always have. Like you can adapt to it. You can just anticipate. So Jeff's looking at the whole internet and saying, I'm going to go sell books first, but I'm going to sell everything first on this thing called the internet.
Right.
Right. So, but for the most part, a lot of bookstores were just like, they got comfortable. They had
Mhm.
built the bookshelves. They had their carpet down.
Right.
They were good. Like they had a system.
Yeah. And they couldn't imagine that.
No. Or like, I don't know, being a whale oil salesman and then someone invents electricity. And you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, is
Well,
this bad?
shoot.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's-
I guess I'll figure out Something else to do.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I'll be a light bulb salesman now, says the
Right.
whale oil salesman.
So that's happening.
Yep.
And at the same time, literacy rates are dropping in the US.
Yes. Yep.
Are those going together, or are they just kind of, it happened to be that way, a coincidence?
Oh, the internet and literacy, or just
The rise of books being sold on the internet and less like, because you're describing this like before the internet,
yeah.
people went to go get books because it was like a thing to do.
Yep.
Right. Or they really wanted to read the book, or sometimes because like it was an adventure.
Yes.
Right. I'm going to go, the bookstore's across town. I'm going to go walk over there.
Yep.
I'm going to find the book. Who knows if it's any good, but
Yeah.
someone, a remote friend told me it was decent.
Right.
Then I'm going to try it out. I'm going to like flip through the pages. Then I'm going to buy it. Then I'm going to bring it back.
Yep.
And it's like you have a connection with this book.
Exactly.
And then it changes with the internet.
Yep.
And suddenly people like, I want this book that a remote friend told me was decent.
Yep.
Either I'm going to go pirate it on the internet and find out if he was lying.
Right. Yeah.
And if he wasn't lying, then great, I'll buy it.
Yeah. Yep.
Or fine, let me just add it to my Amazon cart or my Amazon wish list.
Yes.
Is that with the difficulty decreasing in ability to get books, does it coincide with literacy rates decreasing?
I would say one, I don't know, but I've got a pretty good guess.
Let's hear the guess.
Okay, so here's the guess, and it has to do with what we're kind of like dancing around the edge of, which is like, what do we want books to do?
Right.
Right. So in my case, I'm like talking about a guy who's like, he wants a book to be the surprise. He wants to go on an adventure. He wants to find a book. He wants to find something maybe he haven't even thought about, and then it's like mentally playing like the connect game, the matching game where you're like, oh, I remember my friend telling me about this book 5 years ago, or I remember liking this author when I was a kid, or whatever it is. Right. So there's this fun like, ooh, discovery.
Look,
thing.
Roald Dahl released another book.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Who knew? It's about a crocodile.
Right.
Oh my goodness. And you kind of go, okay, that's one thing that a book can do, which is be kind of like the object of adventure or discovery. Another thing a book can be is like a chore, a tedious thing that I have to do, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a tool that I have to use. I have to read it for my class.
Right.
Like it's an assignment.
Yeah.
It's knowledge that I kind of have to like get familiar with and probably memorize and then pass the test. And then I never want to see this book again. So,
which is where SparkNotes is great.
Yes. Which is where SparkNotes is great. And so let's say you were buying a book for $90 for a class and you realize, wait, for $15, I can get SparkNotes and it does just the same thing. Okay, so this is jobs to be done theory, right? So Clayton Christensen, I have what is the job of the book? So this is we're going to get all the way back to what the heck is literacy rates? What's going on with literacy rates?
You should tell the jobs to be done story.
Okay, jobs to be done story. Okay, Clay Christensen, early on, him and a few researchers are asked by I think McDonald's. I'm so thankful you don't have fact checkers. unless the general public decides to be a fact checker. One day people will come back
here and be like, it wasn't McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't think
could you do that? Could you do subtitles when you find out something? You just like, he's wrong.
He's wrong. Good try, Mark.
He's wrong. He's wrong. It wasn't McDonald's. So Clay Christensen and some other researchers are hired by McDonald's to take the lowest performing item of food on the McDonald's billboard. Mm-hmm. And improve the sales by some marginal percentage. Like figure out how to make our lowest selling item increase in sales. And the lowest selling items were milkshakes. And in order to make milkshakes sell better, they didn't try to like pull like a spiffy campaign out of their hat and say, you'll be cool if you drink, just do it. Or like think different. Here's a milkshake. It was, okay, why do people buy milkshakes? And which was a good question. So why do they buy milkshakes? And can we improve on that? And the way they started phrasing it and thinking about it was, what was the job of the milkshake? In other words, you hired a milkshake to do a job.
Right.
Is it marginally passing your your standards for what a milkshake should be doing, or what I've got a job. I want you to do milkshake. And milkshake, I'll do my best. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Or they're like, you did a great job, milkshake.
yeah.
I was hungry.
This was everything I wanted.
Is everything I wanted. And it turned out the job of a milkshake was to be a meal substitute. It would sit in your cup holder. It wouldn't flop around. It wouldn't fall out of its paper wrapper on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never had that happen to me personally, ever. It doesn't go cold like French fries and then become tasteless and awful. It stays pretty viscous for a very long time because of all the crazy weird stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get sued by
The
McDonald's.
chemicals RFK is no doubt banning.
All the really bad stuff. Maybe there's probably kelp or something.
Yeah. That's healthy.
Kelp is very healthy.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what's in there. So they have this, it has to stay viscous, it has to stay cold, and it makes you feel like you just ate a meal.
Right.
But it's really pretty clean as long as you don't blow it up. It's really clean. It stays in the cup holder. You sip it, you put it back.
Right.
It does its job. And so once they realized, okay, people are hiring a milkshake to do a job, and that job is X, Y, and Z, how can we help it do that job better? And the second they started thinking about everything as the jobs to be done theory, then they started going, oh, this is applications everywhere.
Right.
So because it takes you out of the realm of categories. Is there anything else that's effectively a meal substitute that competes with a milkshake that's not technically a milkshake? It's not cold and in a cup.
Right.
A Snickers bar. Ta-da!
Bingo.
Exactly. So if Snickers bar is going, we're losing out in the job of being a meal substitute. How can we make our Snickers bar more of a meal substitute? I don't know, make it bigger, right?
Right.
Make it look more breakfasty. I don't know, do something. Or they're like, maybe we should do milkshakes. Whatever it is, if you start thinking about jobs to be done categories, then you run into things like, what's the job to be done of a bookstore?
Right.
It's to have lots of books. Well, guess what? The internet can do that job way better.
Yep.
What's the job of a book? Depends on the book, right? So the job of a textbook is to kind of impart information so you can learn the subject and go on and learn more things.
Right.
The job of a fiction,
A novel.
A novel is to entertain, to feed your soul, to kind of open your eyes to all the things that fiction in a good way should do.
Right.
And there's bad things like, I just want to be distracted and not think about anything.
Right. And then you go watch YouTube.
Yeah. And then you go watch YouTube. What's really funny is I'm wondering if this guy is going to walk in here right now.
I don't know.
We're about to find out.
If we do, if we
invite
cut,
him on?
we might have to put on the hats.
Switch to hats. So the job of a book, so now we're going back to so all the way back to literacy now.
Yeah.
If the job of books, it is. I'll get him.
He's got a little package. For those wondering, Mark has a delivery guy that has a package for him. And the door to Bull Rush Books locks, so he had to be let in. What did we get?
This podcast is brought to you by Pacific Blue Multifold Premium 2-ply paper towels.
Ooh, paper towels. That's fun.
We need a lot of them around here.
Well, you got a lot of employees.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Anyway, so
yeah,
job to be done of a book, a novel,
Yep.
Textbook, one thing.
Yep.
Novel, completely different.
Yep. Nonfiction book, another thing.
Right.
Yep. And the joke is a lot of times an author could price it down and do one podcast and probably cover everything you could cover in one book.
Right.
And I just paid $20 for the book, but a podcast is free. So the job to be done of getting a really cool idea across to people, a book's kind of not very good.
Right.
It's kind of like a way of gatekeeping it and holding it.
Yeah.
And making some money. And then you go kind of on tour talking about your jobs to be done theory or Blink or whatever it is.
Right.
This cool idea that probably could be summarized pretty quickly or talked about very easily.
2 hours on a podcast.
Yeah,
you can get through a lot of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the jobs to be done of a nonfiction book is to try to capture as much money as you can
right.
for a short amount of time after your TED Talk.
Yes.
The job to be done of a children's book is to be read just tons and tons and tons of times. And it has to entertain and be kind
delightful
and and not be too scary because you want the kids to go to bed, right?
Right.
So like that's part of its job. Or in N.D. Wilson's book's case, they have to just scare the pants off of you. That's why they're so good.
Anyway.
Not that we know who he is.
No, he seems like a great guy.
He did
from his
Didn't you have him on?
books.
Wasn't he?
I did, yeah,
Okay,
a couple
that's
weeks
what I
ago.
thought.
Yeah. Okay, so but that kind of raises a question, like
Yep.
broadly, why books at all?
Right. So that's a good question. So what did books disrupt when they came along?
Right.
Well, so in this case, so books
Disrupted no knowledge.
Oh, sure they did. I think the Greek. So this is where you need Tim Griffith on next. But the idea of, because he can talk about all like not just about books and but here's the thing is that when they started writing the Iliad and the Odyssey down, it had already been an oral tradition.
Right.
Right. It was it was memorized and recited.
Right.
The whole thing.
Right.
And people are like, well, if we write it down, people won't remember anything anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a good point.
Yep.
But they also won't forget key bits or
Yes.
change things up slightly.
Yes.
So books came along and they helped people not have to remember literally everything.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe that's making us lazy. But I can't imagine being anywhere near close to memorizing half of the Iliad
Right.
or half of the Odyssey.
Right.
Books allow us to have a lot more things available at our fingertips.
Right.
Right. But here's the funny thing about it. So if it's just like static information, you're like, oh, I might need to have a book that holds the information inside of it. And then if I think, what's the answer to that question? Well, the internet will do that job way better than a book would.
Because you have to go search through it.
Right. In fact, that book that you have on your shelf might be on, well, it's definitely behind every AI. They like pirated millions of books. And like, so if you want a good use case for why books are important, it's because you have to build AIs on top of them.
Yep.
The end. All right, we're done.
Yeah.
No, so books, so we kind of tangent, sorry. Circle back around because I think this is you were trying to say something and I totally lost track of it.
My question is like, why books at all?
Yeah, okay, good. Well, for one, so you don't forget. Like, and so why was it a big deal when the Israelites were rebuilding the temple and they found the scrolls? Didn't they know all that stuff already?
Right.
They're Israelites.
Yeah.
They should know it.
Like
But no, it was written down and they didn't know it. And that's why it was such a big deal because it was written down. It's in physical form.
Yeah.
And contrary to how hard, like, how much people try to burn books to get rid of knowledge or things that they think are bad, it really doesn't work out that way. Like it's really hard to destroy a book, a physical book. And so you put things down on paper because they're important. Now, if you get an industrial railroad sized press that's just like blazing stuff out all the time, you start to begin to think, well, maybe printed things aren't that important because there's so much of it. But that's kind of disguising the fact that when you had a book and you printed things on it, it meant something and it was important.
Right.
And there continue to still be things that are written down and on paper and in between covers that are important.
But part of that sounds like a fail-safe.
Yeah, but the other reason why is because humans think we process, memorize, think through things in three-dimensional space. We're embodied creatures in a multi-dimensional world. There's more than just three dimensions, right? But so we're embodied creatures. We think in terms of our memories are three-dimensional. If this makes any sense, we're more keyed up. It's factually it is actually the case that if you read through a series of ideas or thoughts or information in three-dimensional space, you're more likely to remember it than you are if it's just on a single flat screen.
Right.
Right. These screens are very novel inventions.
Right.
Where our human brains actually we latched onto something with books where we can actually remember things in context because they're physical. If they're not physical, we have a harder time remembering.
They're
them.
attached to a physical. It's like the memory palace.
Yes.
Like I've attached the memory of me scraping my knee to that book.
Yes, exactly.
Or I've attached business law.
Yes.
Wow, now I look like an idiot. I couldn't say business
Booziness law.
business law
Yeah.
to that book.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, but not only that, but you attach like you'll remember the difference between an S corp and a C corp. You'll be able to remember those distinctions better if you read it physically on a page. Even if you don't remember where exactly it is in the book, your brain actually memorizes things better if it's physically in 3-dimensional. If it's capturing the information in 3-dimensional space.
Yeah.
And I'm not advocating for Facebook goggles and you wander around like bumping into ideas or anything like that. But a physical book actually helped. We're more likely to be able to remember things if it's physically in a book. In other words.
This is very interesting because it ties into like I listen to a lot of audiobooks I love audiobooks.
Sure.
And oftentimes I listen to them while I'm doing something. I'm at the gym.
Yep.
I'm practicing golf. I am, doing chores around the house.
Yep.
And sometimes when I like do the same kind of thing in the same place.
Yep.
And I listen to a book while I'm doing it.
Yep.
Like even if it isn't the same book that I'm listening to, like if it was, 3 books back,
Yeah.
I did this same thing here.
Yeah.
Weirdly, when I go back to that place and I'm listening to a book that's not the same book, I'll remember what I thought when listening to that other book.
Yeah.
Like it's attached to a memory.
Yes.
And that helps me like remember it, but only like in this place.
Yes.
And so I imagine if I like could imagine walking up to that place, that would induce that memory.
It could bring some of it back, or if your brain has more things to grab onto when it goes to retrieve a memory. It has maybe the warmth of the summer day, the place, maybe even a smell. Right? Like it's tying all those threads together. That way it's not just a single thread of information that you read on a screen while your notifications were dinging at you. So it's like a chopped up little thread. Yeah. And it's like all in pieces. Instead, it's kind of like this tapestry of all these different things. And if you pull on one thing, you'll remember something else. But it also allows your brain to be able to get to that quicker because it has a catalog of like, oh yeah, I was listening to that John Buchan book and I was, but I don't think you even think out loud like that in terms of like why your brain remembers it. It just does. It has more handholds to remember things with.
And then I can remember afterward. I can like think through it afterwards. Like, oh, the reason I remember that, I think, is because I was in this place. I was chipping.
Right.
Last time
In other words, books are effectively a hack to help your brain remember things.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Just in the same way that you have unintentionally figured out a hack for listening to something, if you're just listening in the dark with your eyes closed, maybe like you're forming pictures in your head, you're picturing what they're saying in your mind.
Yeah.
But it's better if you're just doing stuff. You're in the physical world and there's a conversation tied into, moving, place, here I am, time of day, all those kinds of things. Yeah.
And I like if I'm actually doing things, because if I'm sitting there just thinking about here's this, I'm listening to Man Alive by G.K. Chesterton.
Yes.
Fantastic book, by the way. I'm seeing Smith shooting Warren the Doctor.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there trying to imagine it. But if I'm like doing dishes, there's something for my body to do. And so my mind can kind of almost like separate.
Yes, it does.
From my body.
Yeah.
And so like there's, 2 different things happening, and dishes are way more fun. And also I remember the book better.
Right. Well, and the dishes too are basically putting one part of your brain into autopilot. So it's not fidgeting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the part that's paying attention has no distractions because your brain's just doing this, your body's doing this automatic thing. It's kind of like, it's like the 3-year-old kid that you've given a pacifier to.
Yeah.
So that the other parts of your brain can actually listen to what you're listening to.
Yeah.
And remembering it.
Right.
That is a good book. I haven't read Man Alive in a long time.
That's one of my favorites. I really love that one.
Yeah.
Or like sleeping with a fan.
What?
Like there's just like slow, like a low noise.
Yeah.
I don't know why it works, but it does. It does, and I can't sleep without a fan. So
that's true.
I wonder if it's a similar thing.
It has to be. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Your brain has your ears have something to listen to. So they're not listening for like a coyote or a prowler who's going to come up and hit you on the head as you're going to sleep.
Yeah.
It's just a fan.
Right.
Your brain's busily occupied. It's just a fan. We're okay.
Right.
Yeah.
we've wandered wildly off topic, which
No,
is
no, not really, because
is
we're talking
amazing.
about books, and books are about everything.
Yes. So, but this all kind of ties into this idea that we're 3D people
Yep.
and we need a 3D world, and we kind of like it creates humans. The stories are soul food, definitely, but also physical books are like character builders in a weird way.
I would say so. I mean, honestly, I've come to the conclusion that books are a luxury because they take up space.
Mm-hmm.
They look amazing too. Like, I think books look really cool, and those aren't even great looking books.
I
They
know,
all
but
have, like, stickers on them and stuff.
it still looks cool.
It does look cool. So books. I think books are a luxury because they take up physical space, and you can't you can have so many before the foundation of your house starts to like buckle. So you have to
Right.
move into a castle where the foundations are better. So all these different facets of books, but so they're a luxury in a real sense, because if you wanted to move at all, like, you basically you could have the simple life and have your phone and read everything on your phone and listen to everything on your phone, or you could have a book, and you're basically saying the things that are in that book are valuable enough to me that I want that book to do only one thing. That specific book is doing one thing.
Right.
And it's just being the Phantom Tollbooth.
Yes.
And when I want to read the Phantom Tollbooth, I'm not going to pull it up on my phone. I'm just going to go grab the Phantom Tollbooth, and I'm going to sit down with it because it's a good book.
Right.
Character building, probably. Taking 5 books along with you on a vacation is character building because it weighs an extra 10 pounds.
Right. Yep. Or carrying your mother's backpack when she's taken 15.
There you go. Or when you're coming back from England or wherever you went where they have lots of books.
Yeah.
And they're heavy. Yeah. No, they're very character building that way.
Yeah. But it also in the sense that like it requires effort and focus
Yes.
to read a book in a way that it doesn't like to listen to an audiobook.
Well, especially now.
Right.
Okay, so especially now, because our brains, once you, I think, have like even a sense of how like much phones mess with your brain chemistry and how much you want to go back and, check your
Doom
Instagram
scroll.
feed real quick,
Yeah.
or check to see if anybody DM'd me back or whatever it is, the phones are engineered to make you restless and make you not happy just sitting and reading a book or sitting and listening to a person talk.
Right.
Or just sitting.
The,
Right?
the just sitting.
Yeah, I think, and so yes, it's character building because, well, how about this? You have to have a pretty built character already in order to be able to enjoy a book or to set aside the time to sit down and read a book.
Right. Your
For
mind
more than 5 minutes.
Right. Your mind has to be you have to have control of your mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was something I did a lot in Africa because they had no power.
Yeah.
And so like after 8 p.m.
Yeah.
you couldn't no power, so
Yeah.
no internet.
Yep.
And no lights. So I just kind of sat there for like until it was like 10 o'clock, and then I was like, all right, I guess I'll go to bed now.
Yeah.
But like you kind of there's a sense in which like you're discovering yourself, and I hate that language.
Sure.
But you do actually like you start thinking like you have thoughts that you wouldn't have if you didn't just sit there for hours.
I've been hearing more and more people advocating for boredom, right?
Yeah.
Because and boredom in scare quotes, it's
Mhm.
kind of like what they actually mean is just not being distracted,
Right.
right? And so you're kind of, I agree. There's a lot of self-discovery, which was actually just running away.
Right.
Like, it wasn't actually, I'm running away. Like self-discovery, I'm running away from God. I'm running away from myself. I'm running away, but I'm going to call it self-discovery. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's called lying.
Right.
But then you also have like, oh, it turns out that if I actually have to stop and not be distracted, because it's fun to be distracted, it's easy to be distracted. Once there's no distractions, I am kind of going to find out a lot about myself pretty quickly. So
Right.
you will have self-discovery, and it will be a real self-discovery. In that position, when you were there, how much did you have physical books? What did you do?
Yeah, so I had some physical books. I did a lot of push-ups and a lot of wall sits.
Nice.
And then I could get on my roof. And so I bought a deck chair.
Okay.
Like the first week I was there, because I was like, this is gonna be a problem
Yeah.
if I don't address it.
Yeah.
So I got a deck chair, and then I just go sit on the roof, and like you could. Zambia is a huge. Lusaka is a huge city. It's
Yeah.
got like 5 million people.
Yeah.
But it's so deindustrialized that at night there's basically as much light pollution as we get here in Moscow,
Oh,
which
wow.
is a city of like 25,000.
Yeah.
Right. So I could look up and see the stars.
Yeah.
And I could look out and like see the one street light and all the Africans walking around
Wow.
under it. And
Okay.
the cool part was I could see them walking out of the light of the street lamp and just disappearing
Yeah.
because they're black and they all wore like dark clothes.
Yeah.
And then they would walk in the middle of the road, and even when a car was coming, which was fun because you would watch them nearly die and then get very angry at the driver. But you just I just sit up there and
Until it got
I had
dark.
it right. No,
So you couldn't see it till it got so dark you couldn't see anything, and then you go to bed.
it never really. I mean, they never turned off the street lights. Like it was like at the point I would kind of read until like I couldn't, like there was no more light,
Got
and then
it,
I was
okay.
like, okay,
Yeah.
well now I got 4 hours until right
Yeah.
anything's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Great. What am I gonna do? Like, I can't see my dog
Yeah.
because like who knows where he is? He's somewhere in the house.
Yeah.
But I can't find him.
Yeah.
And the battery generator that I was supposed to have didn't work,
Okay.
which was amazing. And so I just go sit on the roof.
Yeah.
He's like, what else do you do?
Yeah. That's
But
amazing.
anyway,
Yeah.
all that to say, boredom is fantastic.
It is.
It's amazing. And like even I was actually talking to Roger Hall about this, and he was like, he calls it meditation,
Okay.
which has some bad connotations, especially, kind of mystic, like, let me,
Sure. Or
think deep
let
within
the words of my
myself.
mouth and meditation in my heart.
right,
Right.
right.
You're
So
just sitting there
there's
thinking.
there's that,
Yeah.
yes. And he was like, even if you can do 20 minutes a day, you'll be shocked at how like, how much you realize even that you can't do 20 minutes a day, and that your phone, when you're on your phone, you're like, I could be doing something else.
Yeah.
Because it's no longer like this is the only thing I have.
Right.
You have other things you can do, like even if it's just sitting there.
Right. And it's basically it's like a fake opportunity cost
Yeah.
where you're like, well, I could be sitting here doing nothing,
Right.
or I could be productive
Right.
on my phone.
Right.
Says the phone in a little whispery voice.
Yes.
I think there's a study, and I could be wrong with this. This is where the fact checker like subtitle comes in.
Yeah.
But there's a study in which they said that even if you have your phone turned off, like powered off completely, and have it on a table, like within
Eyesight.
eyesight,
Yep.
right? Is that we're thinking about the same one? But that idea of like your brain literally can't like stay focused
Yeah.
if it's even in the room,
Right.
Dead.
If you can see it.
if you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put it like behind my like charging block on my desk.
Yeah.
Just put it back there.
It's there, but it's
like-
not there. You can't
right.
see
I
it.
can't see it.
Yeah.
It is kind of wild.
Yeah.
And all of this, let's bring it all back
Yeah. To books.
to literacy rates.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Where's this play into?
Okay, this is interesting
literacy
because
rates.
if we step back, one of the things I was thinking about was like have literacy. So if people, well, for one, they really made people learn how to read a lot more in the past. I think
Mhm.
people are not as literate. The standards of like how much you can read, what you comprehend, how you read, how much of your work at school is reading, that sort of
Right.
thing. I'm sure that's in decline. I'm sure it's not as big of a standard as it was in the past.
Mm.
If you think of all the reading curriculum and how much reading kids
Right.
did 100 years ago
Yeah.
compared to now, it's not nearly as much of a skill that's being insisted upon. And so it's not that important. Like your best and most wonderful memories are from a show that you watched on TV, or a movie that you watched, or a game that you played,
Mhm.
as opposed to a book that you read,
Right.
right? And so I think literacy rates are in decline because reading books isn't as important to being kind of a complete human in a lot of people's minds as it used to be. So in other words, like why are literacy rates declining? It was because literacy is not that important to people,
Mhm.
right? And I think that has to do a lot with the other part of it is that, I mean, flat out, literacy rates probably just parallel religious religious decline.
Hmm.
So in other words, like if you're a Christian, you kind of have to have a book, at least one book
At least
in your
one of them.
house,
Yeah.
right? And if you have one book, you probably will have more,
Right.
right? It's just how it works. Like literacy is important because you want to be able to sing hymns and you want to be able to read your Bible.
Right.
Because that's how.
Because we're people of the word.
Right, we're people
Right.
of the word.
So we're
we're
people of words.
we're
Right.
communicated to through words, like our promises, covenants, blessings. They're all with words.
Yeah.
Right, and they're written down so we don't forget them.
Right.
They're written in the book of the law so that you don't forget.
Yeah.
So literacy rates in decline probably because the form of religion that America's digressing into is not a literate religion.
Mm.
It's an emotive religion. It's a visual religion.
Yeah.
It's a sensory and emotional religion, but it's not, and it's definitely not articulated, written down in a book because it'd look really bad. Actually, it's articulated all the time, but then we get embarrassed by it a couple years later and say, "Oh, that was a terrible book."
Yeah.
What's it? A Million Little Pieces by James Frey. Like,
I
mean, so you think about every Oprah's book club book is some form of a religious text,
Mm-hmm.
but we kind of keep moving and we move on to the next religious text. But it's religion changes and moves and adapts and shuffles and morphs in our world, and we dispose of the religious text that we had 10 years ago. We go, oh yeah, I remember that book. It meant something to me back then, but I like this new one better. Right. As opposed to one book which hasn't changed at all and isn't going to change. Right. Right. So I think literacy rates have more to do with human hearts, less to do with books per se, and less to do with technology than I think we would think. I think literacy rates are actually increasing because a lot of I wouldn't call newspaper writing like literacy in the same way that reading Gulliver's Travels would be considered literacy, right? Right. Like you're functionally be able to read, but
a story
with the decline of newspapers, and then the rise of basically television news and radio news are going to supplant newspaper news because a picture's worth 1,000 words. You can say something on paper, but it's totally different if you see a picture of it happening on the TV. So you have, but I think this is the thing, is that a lot of times my mouth's trying to catch up with my brain because it's like galloping far ahead on this one. Yep. But I think the thing is that I think that what we did with our time has changed dramatically. It used to be that we spent a lot of time like trying to be knowledgeable by watching the news or listening to the news to kind of find out what's going on in the world. Now we're actually way more efficient. So in other words, our news gathering, so we could stay current with current events or relevant with relevant culture, that got blown up. At a certain point, we're just like, the four major networks have no clue as to what's going on, or they're just lying about what's going on. They're also taking a long time because they want to show me 3 minutes of commercials for every 5 minutes of news. Mm-hmm. So I'm wasting like a good piece of my half an hour of catching up on the news is wasted time. I could just scroll through real quick and see what the major headlines are, and I'm good. I'm caught up. I think we're actually, funnily enough, I think we have more time because old media spent a lot of time trying to like sell us something or hit us with an ad. Mm-hmm. I think we have more time to read now than we ever have had before. It's just whether we choose to be focused on it or not. Yeah. And books actually, books then are also kind of a way of kind of saying, you know, this is an important enough topic. I'm shutting off everything else by having it be a physical book. Yeah. Nothing's going to pop up as I'm reading a book. Right. I think the stat right now is something along the lines of none of the new technologies that you would go to read a book have affected physical books. So in other words, Audible books don't seem to have an effect on new book sales. Book sales have continued to rise. There's more new books now being printed than ever before. And then Kindle books don't have a noticeable effect. If anything, it actually makes people buy more books. So you're able to kind of get an idea a lot. Like, so in other words, the rise of the Kindle has caused a net gain in overall reading. Right. Because I think, if I'm thinking about this properly, we can cram more things like a short bit of a podcast into our commute or a little bit of the Kindle book on our phone when we're waiting in line, or I just have a few extra minutes, we're able to slice these little bits of information or entertainment or edification up and put them in different spots. And so I think people are reading more in their day than they ever had before, counterintuitively.
Yep.
But where books fit into that is much more of like, I think it's a lost one because books required you to put everything else out of the way in order to do it. And for a lot of people over this past, when did the iPhone come out? 2007, 2008?
I think it was 7.
Or 14? No,
it was 7.
7, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So 7 to now, not quite 20 years.
Right.
But in the last 20 years, I think we're starting to figure out like, oh, maybe being on my phone all the time isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's going to, if I was going to make a prediction, which I'm not, but I'm kind of doing it anyway.
Right.
I think the more we're becoming aware of how phones alter our brain chemistry and alter our ability to be focused on things, the more we're going to have to make conscious decisions about like, I really have to shut everything off. And I really have to shut everything off if I want to focus on one thing. If I want to focus on talking to my wife, I shouldn't have a phone like next to my head or looking at a phone while I'm talking to, someone that's important.
Yeah.
Or if an idea or learning something is important, it probably shouldn't be on my phone. Maybe not on my Kindle. Maybe the Kindle's fine. I don't know. I can flip through a Kindle faster.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I got a lot of thoughts in my head that I've got to try and get out in a coherent order.
Okay.
So, I think part of it is a lack of trust in the technology has increased exponentially.
Sure.
Over the past several years.
Yep.
I also think that social pressure has never been like you should definitely be looking at Twitter while on a date with your wife.
Yes.
Right? But it is now more negative, closer to I think like a mom looking at their son being like don't be on your phone all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And now society is kind of in that mental frame towards phones, towards distractions. I saw there was this guy that took a bunch of pictures of people at malls and in social gatherings on their phones, and then he edited out the phones. And so it's just a bunch of people staring at their hands, like around a table with each other, staring at their hands. It was funny and a little bit sad, but mostly funny.
Yeah.
But like so social pressure has pushed a lot of people to I need to detox. That's a big word these days.
Yep.
Detox from social media, from my phone, from technology, just in general. And I also wonder, and here's the next question: is there a demographic change in the people who are reading books now? Because it used to be like back when I was younger, I felt like the only people I knew who read books were people my mom's age.
Yeah.
Right. And most of the time it was like fiction books.
Yep.
And my mom was different because she read doctrine books all the time, which was like great. But like moms read books.
Yeah.
Right. Dads maybe read books.
Yeah.
But moms read books.
Yeah.
And now, especially with the rise of people like Joe Rogan and Chris Williamson, who are kind of, they'll like recommend books on their, like Chris Williamson has the 100 best books he would recommend.
Okay.
Like that's kind of one of the reasons he went famous.
Yep.
Is like he has like a list of 100 books that he read and really like it changed his life.
Yeah.
Right. For better, for worse, people my age listening to him hear about like how his life was changed with books and look at him and they're like, oh, he's informed, he's intelligent, he's coherent, he reads books.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a link there. And so all of this to say, I think there's a general fed upness with being on social media all the time and social media's attention capturing capabilities.
Sure.
I wonder what the demographic is currently. And you might see this as well with Bull Rushed. What is the demographic of people who are reading books these days?
Okay. We're skewed because most of the books we have are textbooks. So, and that falls into that category of a captive audience who has to buy the book or feels like they have to, or they probably have to. I get the sense, I think you're right. So it's interesting because how to answer this question. I agree that I think people are becoming aware of. I think they're like smokers who are still smoking just as regularly, but now they're kind of
They
coming
feel
to the
bad about
conclusion
it.
it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
But they don't really feel like they can do anything about it. I don't think we're at the point where people are quitting or shifting to
Oh, yeah.
nicotine Kindles or
Right.
anything like that.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Right.
To mix the metaphors. So here's the funny thing is if you think about we are as a culture we're digital accessed out across the board. We can pull up practically any movie we want to for our kids. We can we watch television shows, we watch movies as families, as cultures. If you really drill down, even let's say you send your kids to a really rigorous private education school where they read books a lot. One problem with that is that you've just taught your kids that reading books is work.
Yeah. Right.
It's not fun. Whereas if you don't have, and I mean, I'm saying this all serious, if you don't have the internet and you don't really watch television and you have a whole lot of books, you kind of just end up reading books, then realizing, oh, books are great.
Yeah.
These are fun.
Right.
But if you have everything else a lot more easily plugged into pieces of technology, or if you're filling up your time with like, hey, I've got sports at 3:30 and it's 3:30 to 5. A lot of your basically you have a finite amount of your time in the day that you're going to be spent doing things. If you insist on a rigorous education that has a lot of reading in it, reading is actually part of the work. It's not part of like what people enjoy doing.
Right.
I hate to say it that way, but it's actually true.
But it's true.
And unless parents are making concerted effort to say, it's actually also good to read things for fun, read fun books. It shouldn't be a shock to kids to come home and say, I read a book. We're starting a book in class today, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
You're like, that's great.
That's what it's supposed to be.
I know. And the Phantom Tollbooth was one of those ones where my youngest came home and was like, we're reading the Phantom Tollbooth. And I'm like, yes. And she was super excited about it.
Yeah.
Right. I think that families who make a concerted effort, so I don't think there's any kind of like age demographics across the board. I think it's cultures that are very focused, family cultures, first and foremost, that are very focused on having a lot of books and having very few screens.
Right.
And there's very few of those kinds of families, but they exist.
Right.
And they're out there and they have massive libraries in their homes and they have tons of books and they just kind of have a bunch of books waiting in the wings at any given moment. It's kind of like having, let's say on your Netflix account, you only had things that you've bought. So you have nothing in your Netflix account except for the movies you bought.
Yeah, right.
It's like Amazon then, maybe Amazon before Prime, whatever. The whole point is like your library shelves are like the internet of physical things that you have access to anytime. Like all those books are on demand. But unless you've actually made the kind of the conscious effort, we're just going to make sure that what we have on demand around our house isn't necessarily the internet.
Right.
Then you'll have a reading culture. And then also don't have just the Bobbsey twins. Have like lots of like really good books, right? Lots of books.
Yeah.
Have lots of options, and then encourage getting more of those options in place and having those in your house if you want to have a lot more reading. My sense is that we're nowhere close to a retrenchment or a retreating from digital entertainment. So it's funny because I think sometimes I feel like we kind of fall into an idea that there's this war between the digital and the physical, or between the internet and books, or things like that. It's much more of like, there is a competition for attention. We know that, right? And that is not just like the internet has it out for books.
Right.
The internet has it out for everything.
Yeah.
Like probably even eating, sleeping, and drinking. Like that's way too much distraction from the internet. The internet says, get back over here. You shouldn't be enjoying your meal and taking your time talking to people. There's lots of things on the internet that you have to come and do, right? It's like, it's a voracious, all encompassing, like I want as much of your time, because here's the thing is your time is valuable.
Right.
It's extremely valuable. There's multi-billion-dollar companies that want your time and attention
Yeah.
all the time, but they almost make you try to feel like your time and attention isn't valuable. So I can play this game and look at an ad and watch this YouTube video.
Right.
But your time is extremely valuable. That's why companies will pay tons of money to get even a little bit of your time and attention on any given day.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that we're in a time and a place right now where it's not getting better. It's going to get worse before it gets better in terms of our reading culture, where reading falls into things. We're just not there.
Yeah. I think the reason I say like, hey, we might have a little glimmer of hope.
Oh yeah.
Is maybe it's just my Instagram.
No. There is a glimmer of hope. People don't like this.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, if I spend more than 10 minutes on Instagram, I will run into an account which I probably follow, or I follow an adjacent account.
Yeah,
that's like stop scrolling is like the name of the account.
Yeah,
and it's just like, remember, you had a real life.
Yeah.
Or there's this wonderful guy named Kyle. It's Kyle Nutt. And he makes like these like before the internet, before modern era.
Oh, awesome.
Very well done videos.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like ideal. And all of the comments are, man, I wish I didn't have this phone that I'm watching this on. I wish I wasn't addicted.
The person types that dutifully and then keeps scrolling.
And then they're like, no, I wish I wasn't doing this.
The drunkard looks at people walking by and thinks, oh, I like walking. If only I could get up and walk. Walking's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's funny because in a sense, like we know, so the heady days of the internet are amazing. And also I think that promise of the future where we could like put on glasses and immerse ourselves in a world. We didn't even need to put on glasses. We're like sucked into our phones.
Right.
And they're not even like all encompassing. Like our brain manages to fuzz everything else out except for our screens. Yeah. But yeah, so no, the revulsion is there. Like that whole thing, like we all know, but and it's funny thing is we're all getting this information about how bad our phones are from our phones and from the people that we're following. So they're powerful in one sense, which the computers and systems are helping us get access to all the studies that tell us all the things that are bad with the phones that we're using to read the studies that tell us that they're bad.
Right.
They're not in a book. I don't think I could go find a book. Someone's not like that. I think that's also actually really interesting, and that's a positive use case of the internet is that there's a lot of really good information. It would cost a lot of money to print it and put it into a book.
Yeah.
And very few people could afford it. But you can research it and publish. Well, you can research it. You can do a lot of work, which is probably expensive or takes a lot of your time. But then you can publish it for free and people can read it for practically free.
Right.
So the dissemination of information is like, so in one sense, the rise of the internet has been wonderful in terms of like, now stuff it used to be that you had to have an editor or at least have money in order to print a book. You had to have a publisher and editor. Now you can publish on Substack. You don't need any.
Right.
There's nothing stopping you from like saying, I've done the research, I've done the work, here it is. I don't have to wait for HarperCollins to get back to me as to whether they're going to print my book.
Right.
I'm just going to publish it
on my blog or something.
Yeah, on my blog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you? How do you think Substack's playing into this arena? Is it helping, hurting, somewhere in the middle?
I just recently paid for, I think, my first subscription to a Substack blog.
Oh, who was it?
I won't say.
Okay.
Because I've forgotten how to spell it, and I'll be like, oh, that was dumb. But his specific focus is actually kind of like he's reading his primary like thing that he does is sits down and reads all the literature specifically around nutrition, mineral intake, like so he's just basically summarizing up cutting edge research on health.
Yeah,
he is, and he's bringing the sources down at the bottom. He's summarizing what's going on, but really going into the weeds on why specifically these, we're really undershooting it in terms of like actual good minerals. and here's
Right.
why. Here's how mitochondria quits functioning if you don't do X, Y, and Z. Like if you're not eating food with good minerals, this is what happens at the cellular level, and this is how the cascading effect goes down to the rest of your body. And the ability for us to take massive amounts of information, comprehend it, edit it, summarize it, communicate it, has sped up so fast. I think not just like, and I'm not talking about AI, but I'm just talking about research and people's time and energy and the ability to learn. Like, let's say you actually had a background in biology, your ability, if you have a college degree and the ability to teach yourself at that point, people are just going to be like crazy brains with how much information they can pull in, the resources they can pull to bring to bear to understand what they're reading. It's all like, we have all the tools that we never would have had if it was all like, if you could have a huge library, but I think the ability to have information and get more information that has bearing upon it and connects to it, and then cross disciplines or cross skill sets.
Yeah.
That ability is something that
It's a huge blessing.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's massively huge. And so a job to be done of a book is to have information, but whose job is it to connect pieces of information across, time, space, disciplines? If you didn't have computers, you'd have to have a librarian, and it'd have to be a pretty crazy librarian, right? Like someone who's like, oh, you're reading that book, you should read that book.
Right.
Like someone in real time who's looking at what you're researching and then bringing things to bear to you. It has to be some agent of some kind.
Yeah.
So as far as I think Substack's a huge blessing, I think all it does is prove use cases. If Substack decides that it's going to cancel people, or basically the idea is that you can self-publish. The name under which you self-publish is not really important.
Yeah.
The ability to censor things on the internet, it's a possibility, but it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
And specifically, if you have a network of people around you who also have networks of people around them, it's very hard to squish information at this point. The only thing you can really do is try to crowd out information.
Yeah.
Put up lots of smoke or just distractions. But if there's real information, it's really hard to, in real time, suppress it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Substack's amazing also because it enables people to find books and authors and people that they would not have found otherwise.
Yep.
So I reach out to a lot of people on Substack and ask them about coming on the podcast because Substack will recommend, here's people you follow, here's people you should follow.
Yes.
And I'll go look at them and I'm like, actually, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I'd never even thought about that.
Yep.
But here's this really interesting thing that exists that this person is thoroughly an expert in.
Yeah.
And I'd love to talk to them because how cool is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that is if you're an author, this is a maybe where this leads next is there's so many books and there's so many good books too.
Yep.
That it's impossible to find them. And so Substack enables people because it's so it's just writing focused.
Yep.
It's not building a brand on Twitter is very difficult.
Yep.
But building a brand on Substack, if you write about things that people are actually interested in, it doesn't feel that difficult. If you pick a niche and you're like, this is the thing, David Bahnsen, I'm going to write about dividends.
Yeah.
All the time.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's people out there who are like, man, I really would love to know what's happening in dividend land these days.
Yeah.
You go to David Bahnsen.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're an author and you're really interested in how AI is going to change the future of map making.
Yeah.
And you start writing about that. Turns out there's a lot of people who are interested in that.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have an audience in your book, which no one would have found otherwise.
Yeah.
Has a potential
right.
audience.
And let's take it back a second. So you have authors who write things down, information that's useful to people. And to make money, you would find someone to print it, and then you get a small amount of that money once it's printed and people buy it.
Right.
Or now you have Substack and you're like, okay, I'm interested in using AI to make maps. But what I really mean by that is what is the future of map making, and how would I use a drone, and what about LiDAR? And you just start going, right?
Yeah.
And you're just talking about how people make maps, or how people made maps back then as opposed to now. what kind of new and innovative ways are there to make maps now
Right.
that weren't there before.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, or audit, or you could. I mean, there's even guys who have successful YouTube careers because they just look at Google Maps all the time, and they can tell you exactly where that picture is taken
Yeah.
because they've looked at Google Maps all the time.
Right.
Um,
Which there are better things to do with one's time.
there could be, but what if there's an emergency?
Yeah.
And you need someone to identify where this person's picture was taken, like right now.
Yeah. Then you go to Rainbolt. Then
Exactly.
And suddenly you know.
And so, so Substack, you can actually publish, you can collect the information, write everything that you need to say about a subject, be an expert on it, help people, and print and publish. But you've skipped an editor.
Mm-hmm.
So be warned. But you've also skipped the marketing publicist, royalty features, slow to print times. We didn't print enough. We printed too many. None of it. Like, you're basically product market fit almost instantly. And if you really love maps and you really love map making, when talking about map mapping, you're going to have an audience.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Right.
And you'll probably make more than you would if you were trying to like convince a publisher to print a book.
Right.
On map making.
Yeah. Right. And you can go the other way too, which is, let's say I'm really interested in map making.
Yep.
But I don't know if anyone else is interested in map making. Well, let me start writing on Substack.
Yeah.
And if anyone pays attention and suddenly, let's say I have 5,000 followers.
Yeah.
Then, okay, clearly there are some people that are interested in this. Why don't I write a book?
Yeah.
And then you've got like a test case, so you're not
or maybe you don't like
wasting
writing
time and
books.
money.
Maybe you like hanging out with other map making people and you say, I'm going to do a conference.
Yeah.
The way I'll make money with my business is I'm just going to host a conference
of all
and
the
people
map
are going
makers.
to come
Yeah.
and it'll be great.
And it'll be so
I don't
much
have to
fun.
write anything else. We just hang out and talk about maps.
Yeah.
And maybe someone will put a map on a wall and point at it and it'll be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the ability to feed yourself because you're interested in something is now so much better than it used to be when it was just books.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
How
is this the sale, the love, the culture-wide focus on books? It feels like we haven't had a great book in a long time.
Since Harry Potter?
Or a while. Yeah, since Harry Potter. Or maybe The Hunger Games was the last culturally accepted great book.
Okay.
Um,
I think Hunger Games is a wah moment as far as like cultural like stuff.
Yeah.
Harry Potter's probably the last like cultural
movement.
And that's because you can't have a cultural wide movement with the Reese Witherspoon book club or Oprah's book club.
Right.
Or, like,
yeah.
You can attempt to have like lock down a demographic and get people to buy a specific book, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like that's astroturfing.
Right.
Like it has to be a kid's book. I think it has to be, or young adults. It has to be along those lines where everybody can enjoy it.
Right.
I think Harry Potter's probably the last one.
Yeah.
I won't say it is the last one, but it was the last one of note.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are so many good books out there.
Yep.
How do people find them?
Well, I think like you said, so that's the other piece too, is like it used to be the way you'd find a book that was really good was you'd go to a library and maybe you'd say, I read Freddy the Detective. What else should I read?
Yeah.
You're like, well, how about Freddy Goes Camping? You're like, oh, I didn't know there was a Freddy Goes
Amazing.
Camping. There's more in the series. Okay, I've read all the Freddy books. Now what should I read? Right? And so on and so forth. Which are real books, by the way, just so you know.
Oh, you didn't make those up?
No.
Okay.
It's Freddy the Pig.
Ah.
He's a detective.
Is he any good?
They were actually really good. The illustrations were incredible. I'm
Okay.
a sucker for illustrations.
Well, yeah, you're an illustrator.
And so the Freddy the Pig books were really funny because it was a farmyard of animals and Freddy went on adventures and did things and
Yeah.
flew airplanes. And,
Right.
Yeah.
As you do.
As you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. And so you had someone so the recommendation engine was the librarian who was phenomenal. Be
Mhm.
like, oh, if you've read that, you should read this.
Yeah.
And she'd be right. And then you'd have friends who are like, well, I mean, we didn't need friends necessarily to tell us. I remember The Hobbit being read out loud to us as kids. We had Lewis in the house as soon as like we had books. We had Lewis. Like they were probably around the house before we even were reading, that sort of thing.
Right.
Or you went into a bookstore. The guy who owns a bookstore you kind of have to love books in order to run a bookstore.
Yeah.
You'd be, a pet store if you didn't love books. I don't know. Like you'd
Pets.
be doing something else.
Yeah.
You'd be doing something else if you didn't love books. You kind of trap yourself in it. People who love books trap themselves in bookstores and realize they don't have enough time to read because they're running a bookstore.
Yeah.
They give up in despair and become existentialists and read Sartre. And I'm kidding.
It gets sad.
It gets really sad. No, so the way we got recommendations in the past was definitely much more like a drip out of a faucet as opposed to a fire hose that we have now.
Right.
Now it's just managing how many recommendations we can handle. Like you need curators, you need people who are like, okay, and now you even have like AI, so you could even I wouldn't just ask chat in general, but you have the ability to toss a lot of like relational data into, I don't know, like a system and say, hey, this is who they like and this is why they like it. What are things they haven't discovered yet? What's the world look like out there? So I think you actually could build some pretty cool recommendation engines with the tech that we have now. That's not biased. That's not bot. It doesn't have Google ads like mixed into it.
Yep.
It doesn't have Amazon's algorithm or Amazon's paid. Like if I type in Harry Potter right now on Amazon, I'm guessing there's probably people trying to buy. They're doing ad spends on Amazon right now to sell you their new young adult kids book right beneath or above Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And you probably spend a lot of money to be there, but you don't need, that's a digression. But the point is like, I actually think there's the ability to get lots of really good recommendations. The trick probably, well, no, there isn't a trick. You have things like Goodreads. People love to read, really love to read, and they really like to talk about what they really love to read.
Yeah.
So I don't think actually, I think getting book, and then like you said with Substack, if you've got a person who you really trust or just finding a real affinity for, and you like their outlook on the world, and then they show up and say, I just read this book by Frankopan, and it's about the Silk Road, and it's all about how if you look at the history of the world through the lens of this trade route, you see things in a totally different light, as you would.
Right.
And it's really interesting. You're like, I should get that book because I like seeing things in a different light, and I like this person.
Yeah.
So the book recommendations from people that you trust is also, I think, a really big deal as well. I think there's more people that we like and more people that we trust now that we're in the age of the internet and podcasts and conversations. I actually do think that books actually replaced conversations. Before books, like before you could just grab a book and I'm reading through a book and now I have all kinds of information and knowledge. How would you get it?
You talk to your friend.
You talk to people, right? You'd be sitting around talking to people. And so when books came along and they came along in mass, I do wonder what that disrupted.
Yeah.
What did books come along and get rid of?
Yeah.
Are we coming back to it in one sense? But now it's a funny thing because we listen to people's conversations a lot. And we really enjoy listening to people's conversations who know what they're talking about. And maybe before in the past, we were like, well, they can't be that big of an authority unless they're actually published by a publishing house.
Right.
And now, or they can't be that much of an authority if they're not featured on the nightly news with Tom Brokaw.
Right.
Now it's all those gates in terms of like what vetted you as an expert and why I should listen to you. Now it's just like, you should listen to me because I actually spent this much years studying. This is what I believe about the world. We're aligned in terms of like, I actually believe reality is real as opposed to a construct, things like that, just minor things like that.
Right.
But you find yourself, in a few minutes, you can really quickly know, okay, yeah, this person does know what he's talking about. He has credentials in terms of like, he can articulate his view of the world and why his view matters very well as well. And I don't need to have someone from NBC News tell me that they're an expert.
Yeah.
Right. Or a publisher, they are published by a major publishing house. They must be an expert.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just got sidelined and now they're no longer sidelined in terms of publishing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you really, really felt like, and it's funny because that puts them in a position if they ever felt like actually saying, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write a very big book I'm writing these articles that kind of like are all around the edge of my subject matter of expertise, but I'm working on the book about this subject. And I'll give you little hints. I'll even toss out a chapter or two.
Yeah.
But I'm going to actually create a book, and you can buy it on Kindle if you want to. You can buy it in physical book, but you can also now hire print on demand companies to just print your book and you only print as many as you actually need.
Right.
That sort of thing. So it's totally, so a book that you can just sit down and focus on is actually much more attainable than it ever was before as well.
Yeah. And I think podcasts are, a lot of people use podcasts as like, here's who I am actually.
Yeah.
Now go buy my book. So for instance, Jeremy Renner, the Marvel actor, was recently on Rogan because he's got a new book about him being run over by a snowplow and then surviving that.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's written this book, and he probably reaches out to Rogan and he's like, hey, I'd love to come on to talk about the book.
Yeah.
And then he comes on, and then people are like, oh, hey, it's a real person.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah.
Like, I like him, like, as he sounds like a cool person.
Yes.
And he's on Rogan. So
Yes.
he's clearly worth listening to.
Yeah.
Great. Well, then I might buy the book.
Yeah.
Because I like him as a person.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be completely out of his mind.
Yeah.
And he seems to know what he's talking about based off the podcast.
Yeah.
Right? Podcast is a very low bar to entry.
Yep.
And then a book is slightly above that. And so,
Yep.
like, you know, if he passes the first bar, he might pass the second one.
Right. And also in a sense, there's a kind of a vote. And like, I like this person. The way I'll express that I like this person is by buying their book.
Yeah.
Like, I support them. I want,
Right.
I think their view on things is good. I want to keep doing your thing. I will buy your book in order to support you to continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. How do used books play into the this whole conversation as far as like getting people to start reading again?
Yeah. Well, obviously they're cheaper.
Which is nice.
We're good. Yeah. Used books are cheaper because they've been used. Also, used books are a kind of it's kind of like buying a used pickup that already has dings and dents in it. You're not worried about,
Beating it up.
You're not worried about like if someone like, oh no, the paint got scratched. It's a used book.
Yeah.
A used book can go into your backpack a lot more readily than a brand new one.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if I got a brand new book. I have to wrap it very carefully in my t-shirt and my luggage so it doesn't get beat up. Oh, I've got my used book. I'll throw it in my backpack.
Yeah. Right.
Now the second, Anyhow, so used book, how it all plays into all this is that let's use Watership Down maybe for an example, or let's just use The Hobbit. No, because people hang on to their Hobbits. Let's use the Watership Down. Okay. So my parents, I think, had a copy of Watership Down. I think they still might have it. But they also might have had it and then I borrowed it, or I inherited or got it from them. A book can be passed generationally or vertically within like a family. It moves around. So a book can have an impact multiple times on the same person or on multiple people. As far as the books do fall apart. If they're not made well, they eventually, if they're glued together, the glue gives up, they crack, they fall apart. If they're a well-made book, they really do last a lifetime or more, right? And there are a lot of books published in a particular period of time where people nailed like the sewn stitched binding technique. And certain publishers, if you find one of their books, you're just like, this is still totally fine. This is printed in the 1940s, 50s,
Right.
30s. Perfect binding. Like, it's still rock solid. I don't know how they did it, but that book is going to last a very long time. Books. So in other words, books were intended to be used, and books were intended to be used for a long time. There was no like planned or unplanned obsolescence built into the books. Used books play into the whole picture because they're really cheap relative to kind of the content. There's lots and lots and lots of used books. There's lots and lots and lots of used books right now. I don't know that they necessarily will. So in other words, I think that the percentage of the population, like literacy rates might be falling, but we have an overall percentage growth, which I think means that there's more readers than there ever have been in the past.
Right.
So I think there's more than enough used books out there that if they're any good, if there's a demand for, Watership Down, and let's say my parents decided they were going to donate that Watership Down, it ends up at a thrift store, and the thrift store sells it back to, like, it's not like it just disappears entirely.
Right.
However, as they fall apart, as new books get published, as publishers rely more and more on printing on demand as opposed to the old system, which was let's print 10,000 copies or 100,000 copies and we'll have them until we run out of them. There was a cost efficiency in just going for it and printing a ton of books.
Right.
Now there's more and more books are in that print on demand category where a publisher is basically like, yeah, we sell them, but let's just wait. And if people they're just allowing the new books that are coming onto the market are just being printed as they're requested. And they're not going to last very long. And I think we're eventually going to run out of the old stock, the old books that are in people's houses. They get passed into the markets. They go to the thrift stores sell them, or the thrift stores recycle them.
Yeah.
I think in the short to medium term, we just kind of continue like bumping along. Books are inexpensive. Like it's not that expensive to go buy a book. That might change. I think the funny thing that I keep thinking about or wondering about is at a certain point, what really keeps the prices of books from going up is the existence of used books.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get to a point where there's no used books, I don't know. So again, there's lots of different jobs to be done for books. But let's just pretend for a second that there were no used cars. Just for a second. They're all gone.
That'd be rough.
It'd be rough. You'd be kind of stuck with
a bike
or a new car, right? But new cars are expensive.
Right.
Why are they expensive? It used to be like cars weren't like that expensive relative to like what you made. Like it used to be, it wasn't crazy to get a car.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, partly because wages have stayed the same.
Wages have stayed the same.
Cars have gotten more expensive.
So I've got a funny feeling that books will follow the same pattern. But so, for instance, with Gulliver's Travels or Watership Down, it's not like Gulliver's Travels has changed at all. It's a known quantity.
Right, yeah.
And so one that was printed 50 years ago is just as good as the one that was printed this year.
Yeah.
And if it was really well printed, then, yeah, you could buy the new one for $10 or $15 on Amazon, or you could buy a used one for $15. But if there's no other copies and they're not printing scads of these new copies, I think we will see an increase in the cost of like buying a subpar book.
Yeah.
Eventually it happens.
Yeah.
It'll happen way faster if people just suddenly decide they really want to read Gulliver's Travels, by the way.
Right.
Because I say, there's more than enough copies of things. But if you look at any given book out on okay, and we talked about podcasts and books, but like David Senra's Founders podcast,
mm-hmm.
he'll read a handful of books. But if he has one book in particular that's like out of print, he'll mention this too. It's like, yeah, this one was really hard to find. Like, but now that he's mentioned it in his podcast, it's going to be impossible to find, right? And so this idea of like, if you have a good teacher or a good person to talk about books, they can make all the used copies of that book in the world disappear overnight. And unless the publisher, and if it's in some kind of weird, like, if that book's in kind of like a limbo zone,
mm-hmm.
like it's out of copyright, like it's not out of copyright, but it's not being reprinted.
Right.
You can have a book just totally gone.
Yeah.
And from that point on, people are like, yeah, I'm going to set an alert if anybody can find this thing, or I'll go find someone, maybe someone scanned it a long time ago and I can pirate the PDF copy or, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But there's millions of people who listen to like different podcasts. If they happen to casually mention, or he has a guest who casually mentions an esoteric author named G.K. Chesterton, there they all go, right? You'll have to go download a Kindle reader version. Like all the physical copies will be gone.
Yeah. So what's the solution as far as used book ecosystem goes?
So I had talked about how like it used to be, well, maybe I talked about this. I can't remember at this point. You and I have talked about how like it used to be books would stay within a city or a town a lot more readily.
Right.
The internet breaks that. The used book, so we talked about it a little bit in terms of like, it used to be you'd go to the bookstore to buy the book or get the book ordered, it shows up to you. Before the internet, you didn't have a direct connection to just someone who has the book. You had all these steps. You'd walk into bookstores. And then what would happen with that book is that book would kind of stay in a town or in a city, and probably within the book ecosystem. It would be donated to a library, and other book lovers would go to the library sale to buy the book, or the library would say, great, we need this in the catalog, and put it in the catalog so it stays. Or it goes to a used bookstore. The used bookstore has it. Someone comes and buys it, reads it, trades it back in for a different book. So it kind of stays. So if you have an ecosystem, a used book ecosystem where a book is bought in a town and stays in a town for a few cycles, or in a community in a few cycles, it's a lot more than I bought it on Amazon, I read it, I donated it to a thrift store, and it's gone to a distribution center hundreds of miles away,
Right.
and then gone again to another, wholesaler 1,000 miles away.
It's just disappeared.
It disappears. It was here and now it's gone. And so if there's a solution, it's figuring out how to make books circulate in a community longer. But doing so, no one as yet as I can understand it has figured out how to do it and remain like a profitable business.
Yeah.
So a nonprofit could potentially do it. A community cooperative could potentially do it. But you're subsidized in some way, right? You're a library.
Right.
A used bookstore is a labor of love. Anybody who has a used bookstore open to people who walk in and lets them browse their books, they're doing like everybody a huge service. And they probably love being around books, and they love people who love books too.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing it. It's not because like
they want to be filthy rich.
Yeah. This is not a filthy rich enterprise. It's definitely like a B corporation or a community service kind of like attitude. But those are the solutions, I think, to. And here's the thing: is like if you have lots of books that are just easily accessible and readable, and take so if you have a library that's really well stocked and you can borrow lots of books from it all the time, that's one way you can foster more book reading. Is because reading books begets more reading of books. Right. And there's anecdotal evidence. We just know this for a fact. Like, you become more curious about other authors once you've read some authors. Right. Amazon sees an increase in overall reading time spent. If you buy a physical book, you're more likely from that point on to, like, for every 1.6 Kindle books, you buy another physical book. So in other words, there's actually a sense in which once you start reading, you read more and more and more. So if you wanted to have a town be more literate and using more used books, you'd have to figure out some way to circulate those used books and keep them kind of like locked in your town as opposed to just shooting them out. Yeah.
This sounds like something that could be done by like an already established bookstore or library or Bulrush Books or something like that. Yeah. Where you already have a business that's profitable, making money in a different area. Yep. But then you become the collection center for used books and the redistribution center thereof. And also, that's one half, and the other small bit is those little book like birdhouse feeder things that are on the side of the road.
That's another good way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The book birdhouses are super interesting because it's not only are you kind of saying, please take a book, but you're also telling people about yourself too. It's a way of kind of like projecting yourself out onto the street. These are the kinds of books that I think I'm glad to give to other people. Yeah.
For better or for worse. Right?
Yeah, but there you go. Like, you wouldn't put books that are like that reflect poorly on you out in your book birdhouse, right? Yeah. Right? You would put books that like you hope people go and read because they're actually good.
But not like your treasured books.
Right.
There's like a fine medium.
There's a fine medium because you wouldn't put you put your best books out there. Yeah. But you don't want to put terrible books out there.
Right.
because I look bad. That's
Right.
another actually job of the books is to make you look good.
That's the other thing is like books are now an aesthetic.
They're a signal,
Yeah.
right? So in other words, if you are a celebrity right now, it's very smart for you to be walking around with a book in your hand as opposed to your phone,
Right.
because it shows that you have depth.
And you have a certain level of class.
Yes.
Right. There are a lot of funny photos of, I think it's LeBron James with the same book, with a bookmark in the exact same spot every time he comes to a game. So clearly he's not read anything. He's just got the book.
I've never heard that before.
With his bookmark. It's very entertaining. But it is like a vibe.
Oh yeah,
like the
no, you're
girls,
trying to project.
Right.
Yeah.
Mostly girls is what I've seen is like people they have a book and they take photos of themselves reading the book in cool looking spots.
Sure.
Or on the beach or something like that, right? So it's like look at me, I am a certain caliber of person.
Sure.
I read books.
Yeah.
I'm better than all you peasants.
Right. No, it's absolutely true. That was the joke. So Hailey Bieber had an interview in which she like, well, what's in her purse? And it was her being funny.
Yeah.
But she pulls out the essential Nietzsche. It's like, this is my beach read.
Yes.
And she's saying it with a straight face.
Right.
But the point is like, that's kind of the level that it's getting at out there.
Yeah.
It's like, is someone reading Being and Nothingness, or are they reading, it's not Catcher in the Rye, and it's not the Oprah's book. It's got to be something that kind of like, it's not something as corny as Che Guevara, but it's that idea of like, this is not the internet. I'm not scrolling on my social feed, even though they are. Like, I'm carrying a book which signals that I'm pondering deep things which require like steady focus on a book.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So the birdhouses are projection, just in the same way that like LeBron James carrying a book around is a projection, but it's also a service because they actually are giving you a free book.
Right.
Like the little book houses are actually giving you a book, which is really nice. So to your point, I think that schools, churches, community organizations, libraries, I think a lot of them do one form or another of this sort of thing, where they say we want people to read books, we want them to read these kinds of books. We're gonna figure out a way to give books away. We're gonna figure out a way to give books away for cheap, for free, for cheap, whatever it is, because we want more people reading books because we love books. I think the thing that perennially what a lot of people wish for is to have old bookstores the way they used to be, right? Where there are just tons of books and you could just browse and find books that you've never heard of before, because we've lost that sense of like discovering things. We've lost that sense in the internet. We're just given a recommendation and then we just go and get it. Mm-hmm. It's like the guy, when I was a kid, there's an article in the newspaper about this guy who collected cookie jars in California.
Okay.
Yeah. And he just spent his whole life going to antique stores and flea markets, and just it was a picture of him sitting in this room, a medium-sized room filled with cookie jars. And then the internet came along and all the fun left because the missing pieces in his collection. Like he would know that, oh, this company made this kind of cookie jar with Santa Claus on it, but I've never seen it. And oh, there it is.
Yeah.
It's
not as valuable.
Right. Exactly.
Right. There's also almost something noble about like you go and you find all the cookie jars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That are available.
Yeah. It was an achievement of some kind.
Yes.
But with books, it's not just like, oh, I've got the complete collection. It's much more of like, I'd like to read it.
Right.
And also, I think your intuitive sense that we are, in fact, there's books we've never heard of, authors never heard of, subjects we haven't thought about, that are all there. They've been published, but there's so much of it out there. We don't have the bandwidth to discover it. Mm-hmm. And now we don't even have the place to discover it. So it used to be you could go into a bookstore to find it, and now there's less of them, or none of them.
I also wonder if something that would help this would be, let me put it this way. I think when Jim Wilson died, he had thousands and thousands of books.
Yes. That
then went down to all the Wilson children, grandchildren, etc.
Yeah.
Right. I think that kind of super hyper localized. My grandparents have a collection of books.
Yep.
And they're all books kind of from their era.
Yeah.
Right. and then they die, they pass them on.
Yep.
And I've got duplicates because sometimes they were reading the same thing as me, or I didn't
Yeah.
ask and I just got my own.
Yeah.
But there's a ecosystem within like a family or a much smaller community.
Yes.
And that continues kind of refreshing.
Yep.
Right. Because I'm going to buy different books than my grandfather would buy.
Yep.
Right. But it gets like the books gets passed down as like part of an inheritance.
Yes.
Like it is a kind of wealth.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Yeah. I agree.
I wonder if I don't know how we would incentivize that kind of thing.
I think probably scaring the dickens out of people and saying they're going to get rid of all books, you better buy them fast, is one way to do it, which wouldn't be real. I don't think anybody's like, we don't have to have an overarching conspiracy of people like going to steal your books from you. People just actively give them up anyway.
Yeah.
So we don't have a problem that way. But I agree. I think it's funny. So I joked about like preppers, like having like an apocalypse library or something like that in a ocean going container. But you make a library that like is sealed and hermetically sealed, and and it could survive a war and a tsunami, and then you open it up and there's all these great books and they're all strapped neatly into place and they haven't fallen out or anything like that. Awesome. But it's funny because it made me think. I was like, why is that a compelling idea to me? Well, it's because I love books.
Yeah.
Like if people usually associate prepping with canned goods and bullets and those kinds of things. But that's like a very limited, like if you think that everything's going to fall apart, what are the things you really want to have lying around? MREs are okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it'd be really good to have like an ocean going container, not filled with bullets and guns per se, but like sewing machines and bolts of cloth and paints, or, so if you're an artist, you're like, if I was going to prep for like a bad decade, you're like, I got all my tubes of, cadmium blue or whatever. You're like, I've got all of my paints. Or if you're a book person, you're like, I need to prep by having like my barrels of Penguin classics just in case, because you might be the only person who has, that particular, I was going to say the Decameron, but I didn't like the Decameron. It wasn't that good.
But the Irish monks.
Yeah.
Around the time of the Black Plague.
Or the librarians of Timbuktu. So there's examples of like, and maybe we do get a bit complacent about how with the Irish monks or the librarians of Timbuktu, you have this moment where there's only like one copy of that book.
Right.
Right. Now we're kind of like, I think, a little bit of complacency because there's thousands of them. But like we just said, so if David Senra says, hey, there's this book, boom, they're all gone.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, is anybody going to republish it? And you're like, well, I don't know. Who has the rights? Like, you don't know. And so maybe this is a way of saying I would encourage people who really think an author is good to make sure you have at least one copy of every book that they wrote.
Yeah.
And if you think it's the kind of thing that your kids would enjoy, you probably should have two, because you'll want to give them
away. Yeah.
I have noticed this is Moscow, Idaho. One of the most common things that I see on bridal registries is a hardcover C.S. Lewis Chronicles of Narnia set. Why?
Really?
Because they read it when they were kids and they didn't bring it with them to college and they got married. And the copies they read are at home with their parents and their other 4 or 5 siblings.
Yeah.
So they're obviously not going to get their parents' copies of the.
Right.
So they need to they need a fresh one. So I like that.
It's kind of funny.
I need pots, pans, and I need a Chronicles of Narnia. Yes, a box set of Chronicles of Narnia, and I need the hardcover, not the giant fat hardcover of the Lord of the Rings, but I need like the 3 hardcover set that's really well bound. So I think actually it'd be good to be a book prepper.
Yeah.
In a sense, not a panicky book prepper, but a book prepper who, like, and you have to have backup like little pots of glue and sewing thread for resewing the bindings. But I don't. So that just that in of itself, if you're thinking about how my parents had these books, my grandparents have these books, they're in my library now. If you're actively thinking about making sure that your kids are getting a book, make sure you have a couple copies of like your absolute need to have classics, so your kids don't have to put it in the bridal registry.
Right.
Yeah, they got it.
Speaking of which, Last question.
Ooh.
You have a doomsday bunker of the books.
Yeah.
Right? Other than the Bible, obviously.
Yeah.
Top 10 books you would put in there. Or I will allow like Chronicles of Narnia is.
Okay. Shoot. That's tricky because I would probably go like my top 10 would probably be the authors that like. So you could easily fill out your top 10 with C.S. Lewis, right? Like right off the bat, which is probably like, I think if I were, yeah, it'd be C.S. Lewis because not only do they have an impact like right away, but they'll continue to have more of an impact. Like they keep getting his writing's good and it keeps getting better because you hopefully get smarter as you're reading him.
I'd say the same about Chesterton.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, how big is my bunker? You know, it's funny because I actually have like the army guys will have like these metal boxes that are also sealed. They're a good 4 feet long, 2 feet high, maybe 3 feet wide. So they're pretty bulky.
Yeah.
But you can make a pretty good prepper's library.
Yeah.
Like in one of these sealed medical, like army medical boxes.
Yeah.
But if I had an ocean going container, you really would like. You could fill out an ocean going container with books really easily without even trying.
Yeah.
But you really like. I feel like if you said no, you're limited to. I think you're limited to space, or you're limited to if you say 10.
Yeah.
So it's a backpack. It's like literally a bug out bag of books, a book bug out bag, and it's physical books. Okay. So the easy throwaway answer is C.S. Lewis. You'd have to have. Who would you have to have? You'd have to have the Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings for starters. Once Nate finishes his Ashtown series, I mean, I'd put the 3 that are in there right now, but once the Ashtown series is done, you have to have that set. And I think because if you're on a desert island, I think food would drive you on to go make you could probably figure out how to make hunting spears and things like that. So if you're stuck in a desert island, you probably want to bring books because you'll have to like, okay, fine. You probably have to have a few hooks. Like, yeah, I'll give myself a couple of like outs in terms of like, but if you're stuck in a desert island, you'll figure out a way to be like Robinson Crusoe and trap things and you know, kill a pig and all that kind of stuff. But you'll need books. And you need books because you'd want to, one, remember who you are. And you'd also want something that remember who you are and who God is. So you're reading your Bible, and then stories are soul food. You have to remember the context. Like, give yourself examples surrounding you, either fictional or actual, like autobiography or biographies of people that you'd want to model and emulate. And so, in a bug out bag, you'd have stuff like that.
Yeah.
You'd have to have something to read out loud to people. It's funny because that's the Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings. That's like actually a story that is even better if it's spoken out loud, or even more better if you're reading out loud to people.
Yeah. Any nonfiction or?
Yes, and I think that's kind of the thing that's kind of like kicking at me from the sides.
I'd put the space trilogy in there.
I would too. I'd put the Hideous Strength in. For sure. Like
I'd take the space trilogy just so I could mainly have that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
And Paralandra's pretty good too.
Yeah. You're keying up, and I have gotten more out of Silent Planet and Paralandra in the last 3 months than I did the last time, which was like 6 months ago. So I'm trying to read through the space trilogy at least once a year, or listen to it at least once a year. Yeah. But the Hideous Strength's like absolute necessity. If right now, like you have to be.
Oh, it's so relevant right now. Like
it's prescient.
Somewhat concerningly relevant.
It's funny because I honestly feel like nonfiction's a tricky one. I think that probably I'd say it's probably someone who could inform my reading of the Bible better. So if it's Calvin, probably you're probably hauling the Institutes in.
Yeah.
Right? Because if Objects No Size, like that'd be a hefty bug out bag, but something along the lines, or his commentaries, you having someone to inform you, like nonfiction that way. But I feel like fiction's far more, like fiction carries far more and does far more for you.
Yeah.
In one sense, I can't think of an autobiography or biography that has as had as much of an impact as a fictional
Right.
biography.
I mean,
Right?
all the first, like, people didn't start with oral traditions of their doctrine. They started with oral traditions of their stories,
Right.
and that informed their doctrine.
Right. And I think and this ties into the fact that recognizing what we're in right now, people talk about how there's like information warfare. We're in like World War III, but it's information. It's not. It's story. We're in a story war right now. Right. And
Right.
so I think that's part of it is like, if you're the kind of prepper who's like, I have to have bullets because
Right.
we're having a war,
Right.
it's like, well, you should probably have stories in your backpack because we're in a story war, not a shooting war right now. Right. We always are in a story war.
Right.
But it's very evident right now that the fight is over who's telling the story the best, who's telling the story the loudest, who's telling the story most persuasively, and then having the kind of story that can counteract another story, like, or just hit it head on. Like, I'm telling a story, well, I've got a way better story.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And that's so I think if you're going to load up and have books in your bug-out bag, you've got mostly fiction. It'd be my take.
I'd put orthodoxy in there as well, just because I want to have some Chesterton.
Yes.
I don't want to lose him.
It's funny. Yeah. No, you wouldn't want to. If I could, I would hand cobble probably different chapters of heretics, orthodoxies, but he's got some of the best essays that are just scattered.
Yeah.
Like in every book of his essays that was just a collection, he has just knockout essays that it'd be really fun and interesting to like actually see who could make the best collection of like, it's like a playlist.
Right. Yeah.
But Chesterton, if you could have one book of Chesterton that's huge and it's just you picking your favorite like
sections
things, that'd be incredible.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have Chesterton in there. And yeah, you probably, if you had to pick someone, it'd probably be orthodoxy. I would think All Things Considered by him is actually right up there as well in terms of like he does stuff with his essays that are just magnificent.
So good, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you put Iliad, Odyssey, Aeneid, any of those in there?
Not in my top 10.
Not in your top 10?
It'd be my bunker. Like
it'd be in the bunker. Yeah.
I keep picturing the ocean-going container.
Me too.
Right?
And so that's too large. We don't have all day.
It's too bad. Yeah, we don't have all day. We don't have that. But I don't know if it would make it into my container either.
Your top 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think, no, it wouldn't. Yeah, no, I think actually you could probably devote a website or a Substack to just the ongoing debate of what makes it into the bag, what makes it into the box,
right?
What makes it into the crate, what makes it into the bus.
Yeah.
Is this a mini bus or a long bus?
Right.
Ocean-going container.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that wouldn't be a bit. So there you go. There's the next Substack right there.
There's the next Substack.
And I think but I think that mindset of kind of like, hey, listen, we're not going to be fear mongers and say you're going to run out of books. But while they're still cheap, buy them and kind of build your library.
Make hay while the sun shines.
Stack up books while they're cheap and then read them when they're not.
Yeah. Easy as that.
Seems simple.
Yeah.
I think we got an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Where can people find Bull Rushed, yourself, all of this?
They can go to bullrush.com. It's 1L, BULRUSHED.com.
Tricky.
And that tells you more about like what we do for our day-to-day, like this stuff.
All of the background.
All the background. And they can find out like kind of like how we got here. I certainly didn't do this. This is I mostly run interference and cause problems rather than increasing the order and beauty of all this. That is my wife. That is everybody else in the business. I kind of make messes, but I started making messes, and they took the mess and fashioned it into a business.
Yes.
The other thing that we do, which I think people might enjoy, is we worked hard from the very beginning because recycling books is really hard to do. Mm-hmm. So we actually figured out how to debind our books so we could recycle the interior pages rather than, and the reason we did that is because if you just throw a book into a recycling container, it usually gets ground up like by a wood chipper and made into egg cartons. And we didn't think that was as cool as what we can do, is we send our paper, if we take take the pages out. We can send the pages up to a pulping plant up in Spokane, and it gets turned into huge reams of like newsprint or book paper. And then we get it back and turn it into notebooks,
which is pretty cool.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make something we were proud of when we were getting rid of algebra books that nobody truly wanted anymore.
Right.
Or 100 copies of An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Which he sequestered a lot of carbon in those books.
Yes.
No, that's where they should go to find out more about us and what we do, and particularly for like, I think I'll work on kind of creating that. I think I'll work on the Substack in which we talk about, like, I'll foster the debate. I'd like to know, like, if you had your 10, 100, like, but I think having a spatial limitation to it actually makes it so much more interesting. Has to fit into this size of backpack. You have exactly this much square meters, and you got to prove it.
Yep.
That you can fit those books into it.
Get ready on Substack. Do you have a Substack?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
You're gonna set one up.
I think I already did. I just haven't done anything with it.
Okay, fair.
I haven't launched it yet.
Yes. Now you'll launch it with a great debate.
Bullrush.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
I will put all that in the description. And if you haven't, go read the Chronicles of Narnia and read them out loud if you can.
If you're watching this, you haven't read the Chronicles of Narnia, I don't know what's going on.
Get on top of it.
That's right.
There you
Did
go.
I say watched or read?
No, read.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy,
you
that
gotta
would have been a terrible.
Don't watch the Chronicles of Narnia.
Do not. They're
One
not.
day someone's gonna have to make a good version of it, but until that point,
obviously.
until that point,
Don't watch the Chronicles of Narnia. Read the Chronicles of Narnia.
there you go.
Awesome.
See you guys.
See ya.
Fantastic. Confetti. I need to add confetti. I think that's what this place is missing.
Boom.